About now. Here we go. Gonna bring you all continuous coverage of PTC 22, or what's left of PTC 22, potential tropical cyclone 22. Whoops, I'm not on my right page. There we go. Starting off on National Hurricane Center. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Friday Night Live, Weather Center Live, Tropics Talk, 8 p.m. on Friday night, November 17th, 2023. We're going to get started talking whatever the heck this thing is out there in the Caribbean. They're still highlighting it as a PTC. I definitely do not think it's a PTC. I honestly had almost zero confidence this thing was going to develop once it started to take off and how nasty looking it is, or was, I should say. But, you know, I'll openly admit to you guys, the hype almost got me. There were a couple moments where I was very steadfast in blasting out that, no, it's not going to develop, this ain't going to happen, nothing's happening, because there were a lot of folks out there very convinced that this thing was going to, see what I did there? Convinced that Vince was going to join us, and, you know, my gut was telling me it had its moments where it tried, it really did, I mean, at least I think it did. There was a brief instance where we had a very small, little, compact, micro-scale circulation down there in the Caribbean that tried to pop out, but you know, if you look at this thing on satellite and you look at this thing on windy, especially looking at the streamlines around it, there is nothing left of it. Nothing. It just looks like a broad trough. Broad trough of cyclonic curvature and the winds extending from above Cuba all the way down into the central and southernmost Caribbean. And the best part is, guys, the best part before we stop and say hello is the fact that now there's a bunch of people out there backpedaling like, oh, you know what, we got lucky. It was going to form up, but this is what happened, you know. This is actually what happened. This is why it didn't form up. We were almost there, you know, it almost happened, but darn, you know, the wind shear got us at the last second. No, no, that's not what, calm down, that's not what happened. This thing, honestly, like I had tried mention, I forget when it was, but I remember leaving a comment and I'd mentioned to somebody, like, I don't anticipate we're really going to see the probabilities go up much higher than where they are. I think this was when it was squeaking at about 20-30% a while ago. We got up there to 70, but notice how now we are right back down to 20%. So, you know, coulda, shoulda, woulda. All right, let's go ahead and start saying hello to some folks. Who do we got in the chat? Miss Leah, good evening. Nomad Cat 4, welcome back. Zarko, welcome in. I keep seeing videos with drastic changes. What? No, nothing. The drastic change is nothing happened, and everyone's finally starting to recognize that because National Hurricane Center is finally losing confidence in it. I'm surprised they still have a forecast track with it. There's really nothing out there. It's just all troughing and very disturbed weather. That's pretty much it. Robert, good evening. Matt F150, good evening. Hope everyone's doing well. Glad to hear you're doing well. Hope all is well in your neck of the woods. Beautifully broken. Message retracted, but welcome in nonetheless. Zarko, Malachi. Hey, Malachi, welcome back. I haven't seen you here in a while. PM, good misty night. Yes, thankfully, that's all we're seeing right now. Wait a minute, I just realized that Zenful, do you have two different accounts, or am I just seeing things? I see the same profile picture between Beautifully Broken and Zenful. Brian Hydrogen, good evening, my fellow Floridians from beautiful New Smyrna Beach, Volusia County. Welcome in, Brian. Good to see you, buddy. The 2023 Atlantic hurricane season ends not with a bang, but with a whisper, exactly. Kind of just, and Vince was no more. Thomas Denton, welcome in. Shawnee, welcome in. It's bad here in Jamaica. Is it really bad? Like, what's going on? I mean, I've been asking folks to leave me comments and let me know what's going on down there. I know that there's a big thunderstorm blowing up over, like, the south and east portion of the island, but all in all, I mean, I feel like you guys haven't had it nearly as bad. And when I say that, I don't mean, like, it hasn't been bad at all. I mean, like, when I say that, it hasn't been, you know, when I say it hasn't been that bad, what I mean is there were a lot of folks forecasting like 14, 16. I believe I even came across a video saying 20 inches of rain, real catastrophic, you know, and it really didn't pan out. Scammer saying it changed route drastically. Don't believe that. Don't believe it at all. Brooke, welcome in. Good to see you. Janice, welcome in, my dear. Hello there. Glad you can join us. Eastern Parish is washing away. Is it that bad? Because I've been trying to find as many video sources as I possibly can, and I've been seeing videos on social media, and it kind of looks like business as usual out there. And that's just me. Again, I think it was yesterday's segment. Please don't take that the wrong way. If I have folks tuning in at a later time, don't take what I'm saying the wrong way. I'm not downplaying it. I'm not saying you guys don't matter. That is far from what I'm saying. What I've been trying to do is I've been trying to not only de-escalate the situation, but at the same time, I've also been trying to dig into what I can on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, just trying to pull some information and some video coverage from out of there before I go saying things like, it hasn't been as bad as we were anticipating and so on and so forth. The way you're unfortunately describing it, though, it sounds like it is as bad, and I haven't seen much on satellite imagery. Here's the windy overlay, and you can see that there's really not a whole lot going on with it. Here is let me go ahead and draw it out. Here's our, quote, PTC. You have winds starting up here, and then look at how long of an axis this thing has become. It's like just this long area of troughing at this point. There really is no cyclonic circulation anymore, any recognizable system anymore. And then you come up to the north here, and we still have our really potent low pressure that kicked off 2 days ago in the southeast. And then our very weak little spinach here that was kind of just situated over top the Melbourne Cocoa Beach area for about 24, almost 36 hours. It was crazy. Now, I know that Jamaica right now, if I turn on the radar imagery, right now you guys have a really ferocious thunder. Yeah, there we go. You have a really ferocious thunderstorm hitting the coastline right now, right over top Kingston, Morant Bay. I'm not too sure where you are, Shani. I'm not too sure where you're located. I've noticed that a lot of the more intense thunderstorm activity as it's rolled through has been right about in through here, sometimes getting up towards the Onoto Bay, the Port Antonio area. It really has been kind of like the east side of the island. A lot of the folks that have commented on my videos haven't really mentioned a whole lot happening in the west and central portions of it, so unfortunately the east side has been getting really good inundations. And when I say good, I don't mean good as in like really good. I mean like good in terms of it's really ramping up out there. Said that homes are affected due to floods. And that makes sense. That's what I've been trying to think about all this time whenever I report on systems like this. Wind's not the problem, David. It's the banging rain and heavy downpour. No, I agree. Yeah, it's definitely. Oh, see, then that makes sense. You live in Kingston. There you have it. That's some really intense thunderstorm activity right there. Lots of rain falling right now. Lots of rain. So that makes a lot of sense. Now I'm putting two and two together. Rainfall like this is going to come on fast, and it's going to flood fast, and that's the biggest concern with this system being so disorganized. It's a good thing and a bad thing that it's so ripped apart, because, I mean, you look at the radar, and, you know, it's very, very isolated case-by-case areas where we're seeing the harshest thunderstorm activity. And I've seen mixed reports online about this. And in my personal and professional opinion, I do think a disorganized situation is much better than an organized situation. So, PM, where are we looking at rainfall totals? Because honestly, everywhere I've been looking has backed off dramatically. I've been seeing about 6 to 8 inches for the most part. 6 to 8 inches. Some models actually trended down before that. Early morning this morning, 0Z into 12Z, a lot of our models were thinking we could see between 4 to 6 inches out there now, even in the most eastern periphery of the island. So we'll have to see what they rack up all together. I noticed Carmen's not in tonight, and I made sure to bring my water bottle just in case. Let me move this away. I noticed earlier that we're finally starting to see some thunderstorm activity in Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Very light stuff, though. Nothing crazy. Very light. Haiti has kind of dodged a lot of this, and truthfully, it was Haiti that was expected to get the brunt of it. GFS was forecasting Jamaica was going to get between 14 to 16 inches, but for a long period of time, the Icon, the Euro, and the GFS alike, forgive me, my eyes are tired. It's been a long day, a long week for that matter. Haiti was supposed to be ground zero for this event, as well as the eastern and southern tip of the Cuban island up here. Santiago de Cuba is where they were thinking a lot of the heaviest inundation was going to be. Same thing with Haiti, and thankfully that has trended down like crazy. And that's kind of what I've been trying to do over my videos, and I do apologize if it has seemed like I'm downplaying it. What I'm trying to do is institute some solid bedside manner. And I feel like in the weather department, you need to have good bedside manner because it's not fair to the public and for folks who don't know any better when they're in the face of severe weather. If you just continue to reinforce how bad it is, you shouldn't aim to do that. If that's all you're trying to do, then get the heck out of the way and let the professionals who really know what they're doing help de-escalate the problem. Because how are you going to tell people... And I've been seeing a lot of this with this situation in particular and other systems this year for that matter. Now that we're getting ready to close out the hurricane season, I can go ahead and go there now. And, I've been noticing that the bedside manner in the meteorological department kind of sucks on YouTube. And I'm going to flagrantly say that. I don't care who tries to come for me after this live stream. It's true. I think in certain dangerous situations, you should be able to rein yourself in, notice what's changed, and if there's positive trends or positive changes, you should openly communicate that, even if it means, God forbid, your views suffer. Even if your subscribers suffer, your subscribers who look to you for accurate weather information, they don't only want to hear about hopeless and dangerous situations. They want to hear that they can go outside and have fun. They want to hear that what was once a dangerous situation, a life-threatening situation, is now, easy-going situation. You got to ride it out, but you know what? It's not going to be as bad. People want to hear that. It's the same thing in the medical department. If you have stage 4 cancer, and all of a sudden you go down to, I don't know how that works, stage 1 cancer, you're going to want to give them the good news. Like, hey, it was uncurable, but treatment's working. We still have a little bit of the way to go to get you to 100%, but hey, we're looking much better. They don't want to hear, we went from stage 4 to stage 1, but you're still suffering. You still have cancer. It's still cancer. Like, no, you don't do that. Just like with this. I remember we had folks in the group chat here, as a matter of fact, mentioning Jamaica, Cat 4 hurricane. I bet you 10 to 1, if we had a Cat 4 hurricane, Shawnee would not be in here right now. The few folks who've been commenting on my videos, watching and thanking me for my coverage, they wouldn't be anywhere because they'd be laid out somewhere because they'd be hunkered down, either sheltered in place, Lord willing, riding it out and getting everything destroyed around them. So in that case, if we're going to go from people hyping a Cat 4 down to just rain, heavy rain, I'm going to de-escalate the situation. Would you rather a Cat 4 or would you rather heavy rain? Because a Category 4 is going to bring some rain, but it's also going to destroy your house like this. And then you're going to have to deal with the rain. The wind's going to destroy the building, and then the rain's going to come in and wash you out. In this case, you just got the heavy rain. You can escape the floods. You can get to higher ground. You can shelter in place. You can sandbag it up. There are preventative measures, and we've been so ahead of this system and every other system for that matter, that there has been time to make preparation. And that's why I urge people not to stress, not to be concerned. It's natural to have anxiety in the face of severe weather. It happens to all of us. I get really excited, but when I see things like Hurricane Ian coming towards us, there is a level of anxiety because you never know. Poop could hit the fan and it's going to be completely out of your control. So that's why it's up to us as accurate weather professionals, or as accurate as possible of weather professionals, to communicate and let you guys know when it really is a bad situation and to take it serious and to de-escalate the situation when it's necessary, because the average individual is going to panic if they hear dangerous, life-threatening, extreme, hazardous. If they don't know any better. Like, let's go back to the medical example. I work in the medical field, but I deal with administrative stuff. I deal with accounts and personal information. I don't deal with diagnosis, medical procedures, examinations, etc. If I had a doctor come in and tell me we have a problem, without even giving me any context, we have a problem, I'm going to panic on the inside because, what's happening? What's wrong? And then even that's when bedside manner comes in. Well, no, not to be alarmed. We have a problem, but it's a tiny problem. It's not that bad. We can get around it using these methods of treatment and et cetera, et cetera. Same thing with this. Guys, we have bad weather coming. Oh, God, how bad? It's not going to be that bad. We can get prepared. We can get ahead of it. We're going to keep you safe. We're going to get you through it. As opposed to, Oh God, everything's bad. The world's ending. Jamaica's sinking into the ocean as we speak. Bye. Let's all wave on the windy overlay right here. That thunderstorm over Jamaica, over Kingston, is sinking them under the sea right now as we speak. Let's all just go ahead and say bond, but no, I'm just kidding. I'm just playing. Let me rein it in for a second, guys. For those of you who have communicated with me on Instagram, I told y'all this was going to be like a professional kind of rant/roast. Because it's true. If there's one thing I've noticed across the board, even now as this system kind of peters out and fizzles out the way that it is, I mean, you look at the satellite and we've lost it. There's nothing left of it. In fact, at this point, you could almost say, stop calling it a potential tropical cyclone and just call it a trough. Call it a trough or call it a boundary, whatever, because it looks like it's feeding into the monsoonal trough in the Pacific and going all the way up like that. And that's the big thing. Like, it's not even PTC anymore. There's nothing left. It's all just bad thunderstorms. And as we all know, thunderstorms can definitely create some flooding, especially for areas without the greatest infrastructure, without the greatest drainage systems. As Shawnee was saying earlier, it only takes a little bit of heavy rain for a short period of time. Even out here, I've seen it. In Arizona was a great instance. A monsoon thunderstorm comes through, rains for 5 minutes, albeit very heavy, and the roads are flooded. It doesn't take much, but at the same time, I'm not going to put thunderstorms. That's all we've got right now. I'm not going to put thunderstorms on the same pedestal as a major hurricane or an Otis. I'm not going to use the same description for this as I would if I were to describe what happened in Acapulco with Hurricane Otis, or even in the Panhandle with Hurricane Idalia. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do an injustice to the people who are really suffering right now. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm going into very hot water right now. I really am. I might be setting myself up for failure right now, but I hope you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. That you got to understand when to backpedal off the negative emphasis and start reinforcing to folks who come to you for accurate, reliable, and safe information. You got to go and tell them, relax. We're here for you, and I'm here to tell you, as your professional, it's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. It's not an end-all, be-all situation where there's no escape, to where if you can't get out of its way, you're done for. In fact, truthfully, if we did have that situation that a few people were hyping to where a Cat 4 was going into Jamaica, that would be a situation where I'd be on my live streams, I'd be in my videos saying, yes, you need to get off the island now. If you can, if you have the means to do so, you need to consider leaving the island and fleeing, because a major hurricane, a Category 4, is definitely something you want to hype up. That is something you really need to let people know. If you can't get out of its way, then you are potentially in a life-threatening situation. Why do you think that when we have major hurricanes in Florida, for example, we have mandatory evacuations? It's not just procedure. It's not, yes, it's procedure, but they don't just do it because it's a hurricane. Like a hurricane warrants an evacuation. No, they do it because they know after a certain point, you can't ride the storm out. In this situation, you can ride it out. It might be bad. There might be some floods. There might be some rushing water, especially in those lower-lying areas. There may be mudslides, landslides. That is not preventable, unfortunately, but you can still ride this out. There are ways to stay safe in a situation like this. If we had major hurricane vents, like the GFS was hyping earlier in this storm's life cycle, that's a situation where you really need to consider just leaving. Get the hell out of the way is what I will say. I'll say it on the stream. Demonetize me if you want, YouTube. Excuse me. Well, maybe not, but but you know what I mean? Like, get the heck out of Dodge. That's a situation where you do want to use verbiage like extreme. Very dangerous situation. You need to consider leaving your home, taking what you need, and getting out of there. So, rant over. The reason I'm ranting so long is because that's been a trend I've noticed almost all hurricane season, is now with this wrapping up and there being nothing on the horizon, we can finally say goodbye to this hurricane season, this weird hurricane season. That's kind of the first preliminary hot wash that I have for the season being on YouTube. Just my YouTube kind of hot wash, like comparing and contrasting what I've been seeing, the reports, looking at, I couldn't even tell you how many channels, how many posts, how many community things I've seen, just everything, shorts, random videos, funny videos, spoof, everything. I've been noticing that a lot of it is just death, destruction, you're going to die, and that's wrong. We were taught in the military especially, and I know this happens in real-life meteorology as well. You got to comfort the public. You're there to help the public. You're there to communicate how bad a situation is. But at the same time, don't reinforce it. You know what I mean? Don't make the same thing again and again and again and again and again. Like, we already know it's going to be bad. Tell us something we don't know. It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. 5 videos later, it's going to be bad. 5 videos later, it's going to be bad. 10 videos later, the whole hurricane season, it's going to be bad. The whole thing is bad. We're getting showers on the East Coast. It's bad, guys. Anyways, let's bring it in. Sorry about that. I've been missing the chat. You guys are probably going off right now. Pete, welcome in. I'm just seeing you popping in. Thank you for joining us, Pete. NHC swept it under the rug. Are we talking about the system with the one that came across southeast Florida? Yeah, I agree. Embedded supercells with feature and resultant latent heat release contributed to warm core nature to feature. I still have my doubts still. I agree. I definitely think I've seen reports of it being a mesoscale cyclonic vortex or mesoscale convective vortex. And I can kind of get behind that. I can definitely get behind that. But at the end of the day, with as large scale of an entire system that it was, it definitely, even right now, you can kind of see now the shear is definitely wiping it out. But even earlier, look at that convection flaring up. Very, very reminiscent of a tiny little subtropical core right there, right off of our coast, just for an example. I remember when it said we were going to get hit by a hurricane, that foolish GFS. Yeah, and exactly. Zarko is a wonderful example. Like, if you go to somebody who thrives off of death and destruction, Zarko probably would have been sheltered in place for absolutely nothing happening in Puerto Rico right now. But every time he asked a question, and my immediate response was, don't panic. Don't worry. Do not be concerned. Even if I had bad news, even if I still had to hit you with, we got to watch, I'm still going to say, don't panic. Like, please don't be afraid. Everything's going to be good. We just got to watch it closely. I don't think that's what's going to happen. And even if it does, worst case scenario, you got to know how to trim the fat, and just kind of communicate a thorough but vivid message. Weather goof tubers. Weather goof tubers. I love that. Gabriel, welcome in. Woo! Friday night woo sesh. Dark Earth, welcome in. Zenful, thank you very much for that. I agreed so hard, my head hurts. I agree 100%. It's the never-ending cycle with these people that hype and don't care about people, just views and money. Yeah, and there are definitely situations that do need to be hyped, but at the same time, in this circumstance, there's definitely levels to it. Innocencia, welcome in. Good night. Thank you for joining us. Battle Ride Mansa. Ethan's life has been having fun at SeaWorld while we're over here stressing and freaking out about the fearmongers and whatnot. I'm glad Jamaica did not have another major hurricane, just heavy rainfall. Hope you were doing okay. Yes, definitely, Shawnee. Don't get me wrong. Shawnee and everybody else out there in Jamaica, folks feeling the wrath of these thunderstorms, please do not misconstrue my words. I'm not saying this doesn't matter, that this doesn't need to be paid attention to, but after a certain point, if we just keep punching and punching and punching the hype in the face, it gets old. You guys are already aware of what's happening. This is not the first time you've had severe thunderstorms. This is not going to be the last time, and there's going to be, I'm going to say it, there's going to be worse storms in the future, whether it be this winter, the spring, or next hurricane season. We're probably going to be right back here in the Weather Center doing a live stream discussing exactly what's happening, if not maybe even a degree or two worse. So that's another thing, too. I respect you guys out there. I respect you guys enough to not baby you. Maybe I should be a little bit more empathetic, but at the same time, I'm not going to pour a whole lot of effort into, oh my God, I respect you guys. You're smart. You've been through it before. You've ridden out storms on several other instances. A lot of people down there have. They assume the risk by living in an area like that. So it's like living in California. It might slip to the back of your mind, but eventually you're going to get hit by an earthquake. Jamaica has seen earthquakes, for that matter. As a matter of fact, perfect example. You don't think about it on a regular basis, but when you're faced with it, it's not like it's brand spanking new. That's like saying if you've lived in Florida for 20 years and you have no idea what a hurricane is. If that's the case, I'd be a little concerned. GFS 13 days out shows a Cat 5. Board your homes now. Finalize your wills. Catastrophic hurricane coming. Keeping people safe always goes first. Exactly. Mark Sudduth has excellent time-lapse video event. I'll have to check that out afterward. That's how it be. I don't know what's been happening lately. I just see rain. Yeah, at 10 E11A, all advisors be canceled and PTC will end. There we go. Very good. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear that, because I know that a lot of folks, when they saw this potential tropical cyclone, they completely went in the opposite direction of why they even issued it. I truthfully don't think that National Hurricane Center had a tremendous amount of faith that this was going to fully develop. They more so wanted to identify it as a potential just so they could designate it, and then legally they can start to issue what they may need to issue, which is why they did it and why they put the watches out. Because let's say, for instance, hypothetically, they didn't designate it because they didn't have any faith that it was going to develop, and then even just one area, one town, one city, one small populated area sees tropical storm level intensity, whatever the conditions may be, that's a bust. That's a liability on their part, and that's why they did what they did. It's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate that there are some people out there that when they see things like that, whoa, shit, they hit the rapid intensification button immediately, and that's not what's happening. That causes a panic. In this case, I even made it in my video yesterday. I immediately said, guys, please don't panic. This doesn't mean this thing is getting strong. It doesn't mean it's going to rapidly build up. They're just trying to get ahead of it. They're just trying to throw the necessary watches and advisories out just in case. And, you know, I fully agree with that. I fully concur with what they did. I really do. The only part that bums me out is I know other people don't understand the rationale, and so they're going to try to tell as many people as they can that it's coming, it's going to blow up, this is it. It's going to be another Ian, you know, and that's not what happened. I hope to one day go on a roller coaster trip around the U.S. That would be insane. A countrywide roller coaster. Wow. They should designate it remnants of former hype and that frontal boundary reminds me of Arizona monsoons. Yeah, kind of, sort of. Sensationalism always brings out false information. The worst of people who love hype, and yes, still very deep tropical moisture, amazing precipitable water amounts, and low-level conversion will still result in a high-packed event. Oh, yeah, definitely. There is no need to hype a significant cyclone. There will be next year. Get tired of the hype. Where I am, evacuation is very rare. First time was 2017 for me. I stayed inside. The city was closed. Yeah, you know, I agree. Next year, definitely, I feel like we're going to have a lot of instances where, that, you know, definitely have to watch out. Nailed it, Nomad Cat 4. Yep, I understand what you mean and where you're going with it. If people take it the wrong way, then let them. But anyway, so David, what do you have planned for Christmas? Christmas! I need to get myself together for Thanksgiving because it's now Friday. We have 6 days. 6 days, you say. 6 days. I used to love the original War of the Worlds movie. And that's one of the infamous lines. They say they could conquer the world in no more than 6 days. The same it took to create it. Anyways, no more War of the Worlds references. Anyway, the holiday season might have very good weather for the southeast states. I don't know about that. You know, I've been looking, and it looks like El Nino is going to really amp up, and I'm going to show you guys that here in a second. I have it pulled up. So here we go. As a matter of fact, yeah, let's take a look. I have the 18Z GFS, so naturally take it with a little bit of suspicion, but I find it really cool that not only are the tropics completely dead, like look at the MDR, done, shut down. Look at the Caribbean, not a whole lot going on out there right now. But notice how there, look at that, right there for Thanksgiving potentially. There's another Gulf of Mexico system coming through right there, right on the, going into Friday night into Saturday morning. One right there, then look at this. Another one right there, another one right there. Like, you know, we might not have as good of weather. They did say we were going to have multiple waves, and if you follow the timeline, like I'd been mentioning to you guys, I think about on a week-by-week, if not a bi-weekly basis, we're going to start seeing those El Nino-style systems, those low pressures, the very aggressive low pressures for that matter, coming through. Let's get a little bit of a closer look, as a matter of fact. Let's go southeast. Like, look at this. I know this is extreme la-la land for the GFS, but let's just take this one right here, for example. Look at this bad boy getting ready to set up just as we start celebrating Thanksgiving and then push through. And I know it's echoed on our other forecast models as well. Here's the 12Z European model from today, and you can see, there you have it. I mean, not as far to the south, but there's still a little bit of moisture that tries to get going, and then there you have it right there. A little bit later in the run, but there's our next El Nino system according to the Euro. So another very potent system getting ready to fire off along the Gulf coastline. The Icon as well is thinking the same thing. I have us down here because I am very interested to see if we get some of that remnant moisture. See, even the Icon is thinking that we could have something spin up out there in the Gulf right as we're starting to celebrate Thanksgiving and get another little low pressure forming up and going right across the same general area as we saw the same one did in October. Yeah, you helped me so much. You're my hero, no lie. Well, Zarko, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I live far enough inland that storms don't really happen. It is rare. We get the edge of them, which can still be impactful. Even was 100 miles closer to me, that would have been bad. Oh, yeah. I mean, like I said, as we speak, they still fear-mongering with this. Yeah, you know, I mean, it's sick and tired of the weathermen that hype just thunderstorms and rainfall. Next year's hurricane season thumbs will be even worse. Huge, yeah. Yeah, honestly, yeah, that kind of worries me because the next year we're going to have just hype fever, hype pandemic. It's going to be the next, you know, pandemic. Oh, good. Good to hear that Kate is there. Very good. I see some giant butt hurricane in thumbnails. Next time I get a disorderly guest at work, I'm going to say he's rapidly intensifying. That's perfect. Next week looks fun out east. I agree, Mr. Shane Castle. Thank you very much for joining me. My teacher, my mentor, I guess you could say the individual who groomed me in synoptic analysis, which is why I still don't entirely think we had fronts attached to what just rolled through us, but that's just me. Because a cardinal rule in Air Force weather was you don't get fronts with the subtropical jet. The SOI is a negative 10.9. That means El Nino is getting significant. I expect a storm every week. Yep, I'm right on board with that. Right on board with that, PM. And it's starting to show up in all of our model data. I'm just really concerned we are going to have a washout for Thanksgiving because I really don't want that. Not after the models teased us with what could possibly be really good weather. You know, I may have hardcore jinxed us because you come back in time. I think it was my Wednesday video. Let's see. Yeah, it was my Wednesday video where you look at that and bam, massive high pressure out there for Thanksgiving. Maybe a little bit of rainfall with some return flow coming out of the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. And then we get that next big weather system the following week. Now it looks like it's picking up pace. That's a textbook El Nino system right there. They're coming out of southern Texas. This is an old run, obviously, guys. Don't trust it. This is on the 15th. 12 Zulu today, if I'm not mistaken, echoed the same sentiments. Yeah, so actually... Oh, yeah, there it is right there. Yeah, so 12 Zulu is also still thinking we're going to get another system forming up out there. And they could possibly have a really gnarly freezing precip event over the Northeast. The lower Great Lakes moving up into, what is that, Pennsylvania, parts of New York State, Massachusetts, Manhattan. I can't see a lot of the states underneath all those color shadings. And we have a really nice front range cold plunge going on right here. And then, yeah, if you look, even on this run of the GFS, this was gnarly. I saw this at 12 Zulu, and I'm like, whoa. I hope that doesn't pan out because that's going to be a gnarly severe weather event for the South. This is starting at the very... that's the transition between November into December. Look at that. Makes you wonder if that's going to be Mother Nature's way of saying, shut up about hurricane season and start looking over the United States because El Nino is going to go full force, and that's when we might start getting some more tornadic activity out here. But one thing I'm very curious about, anyways, I mentioned it really briefly in my video, is if you look at some of our model data, look right there. Right there. And this is not me, again, trying to hype or say we got to watch something. I know I just went on like a 50-minute tirade about that. Not what I'm doing at all. I definitely think this is just going to maybe bring up some rain chances a little bit. But notice down here that the Euro, the GFS, the Icon, and the Canadian model has been more fervent than all of our other model platforms. They want to leave what's left of that tropical energy down just to the east and just to the south of the Dominican Republic, the DR, and Jamaica out there. And I'm seeing it across all of our models now. As you take that through time, that little weak spin. In fact, I bet you 10 to 1 if we go to... Actually, let's go to 850 millibar vorticity. Yeah, there it is right there. You can see it. It stays kind of together and then wanders up towards the... Oh, never mind. We lost it. It's gone. I know on the mean sea level pressure and precip, yeah, there you go. You can see it brings a little bit of extra rain to the Cayman Islands, maybe western Cuba, and then it gets picked up by that next major frontal system and kind of just sucked out. And then there goes the European model thinking that on November 27th, we're going to get cyclogenesis over southern Texas. See, so the Euro still thinks we're going to have a cool Thanksgiving, which I am all here for. I know Dark Earth, for example, I forget who else you were chatting with, but Dark Earth wants the summertime, and it's like, hold on, we don't know, no more. No more summer. Let's get a little bit of cool air in here. Let's get that polar front jet to come down a little bit, and then we can kick back into summer vacation again. Thanksgiving is an autumn festival that was originally in October. Yeah, Tuesday was windy on Sanibel. The power went out that night. Northern Branch system drops on and says hello to the upper Midwest, fires up the lake effect machine. Oh, so the Arctic jet is finally coming down, the Northern Branch. Dude, from all that I've heard, next year could be insane, like you said, especially if the El Nino goes neutral or La Nina, then no shear and tons of hot water. Plus, we'll have tons of rain this winter. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I'm glad it stopped raining in Daytona. Sassy, welcome in. Thank you for joining us. I see you on Instagram a lot. I haven't really seen you in here, but pleasure to have you. I already did it, but America does it late. Canada does it second, Monday of October. I don't do Xmas or Yule or Festivus, whatever you want to call it. Originally, Thanksgiving was the Pilgrims and the Native Americans coming together and giving thanks. Yep. Sunbelt getting lots of severe weather. This worries me. Oh, yeah. But anyways, George, now that you mentioned that, before we continue talking El Nino and whatnot, that is one gripe. One gripe that I have is this. We did not get a major system in the Caribbean. And as you can see, we are still upwards of 2 degrees Charlie warmer down there. And, I mean, you can kind of see that a lot of the Atlantic, a lot of the Caribbean, and even the Gulf of Mexico now, initially we started to see some cooling down, and we'll probably get some more vigorous frontal boundaries, so I wouldn't worry too much about this. We'll probably get more intense frontal pushes, hopefully. If these El Nino systems keep coming through and keeping us fairly warm, that might also not do us any favors. But this right here is what I'm a little concerned about. And again, I know I'm going to get yelled at for talking about a hurricane season that is way out there, farther than La La Land of the GFS, farther than any of us could probably fathom. But I was honestly kind of hoping that, we would have a major system, at least one. Forgive me for saying that because you guys don't deserve it, but I was hoping we get something to form up down there so we can clean up some of that really excessive hot water. And as you can see, we're halfway pushing the latter half of November now, and we're still well above average down there. There's still some areas that you can see, even in the Atlantic, that are still almost 2.5, 3 degrees hotter. There's some... You can tell these are probably eddy or loop currents in the Gulf of Mexico that are still about 2 to 2.5 degrees Charlie warmer than what the climatological norm should be. And I'm kind of a little more concerned that's not going anywhere. If you come over to the rest of our analysis data and you take a look at what the sea surface temps are doing down there, they haven't changed a lot. Like, you could even make a case that technically speaking, right in through here, we could still support. I mean, even in where you have the 26s, where that yellow threshold is, it's not favorable, but it's enough to continue tropical cyclone, at least maintenance. But then look at the Caribbean. There's still some pockets of 30-degree Charlie temperatures down there, 29 uniform across the board, and even the main development region, the MDR, out in the tropical Atlantic, is still sitting pretty at about 29, 30 degrees Charlie. I truly don't think we're going to just trend down enough with the season. It'll probably come down a little bit, but not as much as if we had a major hurricane or even just a regular old tropical storm to go through there to calm things down. And looking forward to next year, that definitely has my attention. And going back to what you said, George, if you're still watching, I got a lot of flack in my preliminary video that I did, but I think a lot of people misconstrued what I was trying to communicate in there. What I was trying to do was tailor the fact that we had above average temperatures for our ocean surface temps and ocean heat content to a double-edged sword right there. I should say a package deal. But we did have the saving grace of El Nino helping to keep the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico completely locked down. We really didn't have anything happen. Idalia was a rare instance where the shear let up for just a little while, and she kicked off, quickly did her thing, and was gone. But all I was trying to mention in my preliminary video was, guys, if we still see these hot temperatures and we uncap areas that were capped this year, then everyone is going to see why we've been hyping the hot waters so much. The reason no one cares and thinks that we're just making stuff up is because nothing happened. We had all that wind shear. We had a hell of a lot of dry air and dust during a large portion of the hurricane season. So it left a lot of that AOR completely untapped, completely just desensitized, or I should say sanitized of any tropical energy. I mean, we've seen it countless times, even right now. We had 4 different systems that everybody was saying, Hurricane Vince, Hurricane Vince, Hurricane Vince. I mean, even I was sold when that first system came down from Puerto Rico and was coming in 97L. I was pretty sold that we were going to finally get a, tropical storm Vince. I didn't think a full-fledged hurricane, but I definitely thought we were finally going to see something organized and come through, and I was hoping that it would, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen because the area just isn't favorable. So all I'm saying is, and all I was saying for next year, even though it may seem like fear-mongering, is if we see a replica of how hot it was this year into next year, even just a little warmer, let's say not as hot, but even just a degree warmer-ish, give or take, and we uncap where our areas could not form tropical cyclones and we put energy out there and just let them run, oh, good Lord, I don't want to imagine what that's going to look like. We're going to have a situation on our hands where instead of talking about a disorganized PTC hitting Jamaica, Cayman Islands, etc., we could have another Ivan, we can have another Wilma easily. That's what happens when you put that type of cyclonic energy, that kind of tropical energy in an area that's completely uncapped. Completely uncapped. So that's all I'm trying to say. It's worth thinking about. If you noticed how abnormally warm and how weird this hurricane season was, look at the Atlantic. The Atlantic is a prime area where we had nothing to stop those storms from forming up, and back to back to back like clockwork, they were firing off. And I said in my video, if you take those storms, and I know you guys who've been watching for a while, if you take those storms that were doing this out in the Atlantic, if you don't change the track, just keep them moving north. Everyone's like, fish storms. Okay, let's take those fish storms that were moving up like this, and let's move them here, and then draw those projected paths. Notice how many more people are in harm's way, even if you give them the exact same track as those systems were in the Atlantic. And that's where I do believe we're going to have a problem. And that's it. That's the only case. I didn't mention anything about steering currents. I didn't mention anything about global warming. I didn't predict landfalls or Cat 5s. All I was saying was, with the amount of storms we had this year in the Atlantic where we were uncapped, let's change the equation. Let's get rid of El Nino, which a lot of our long-range data is suggesting could happen. Let's put the hot water back into effect and just simply copy and paste all the tracks we had this year with all the Lees, the Nigels, the Idalias. Let's put them into the Gulf of Mexico. Let's put them in the Caribbean and then send them north. Let's give them the same fish storm style track. They're going to hit something, and that something is going to have a lot of people sitting on it. And by that, I mean Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Cuba, Puerto Rico, for you guys out there watching, Zarco, Puerto Rico, the Lesser Antilles, Florida, the Gulf Coast. I watched a video earlier before coming into this live stream. It was a Fox station, and they mentioned, we didn't see anything in Texas this year. That might be a totally different story next year. And I'm going to leave it at that. That's it. We're not going to go on a long tirade. We've had the strong easterly trade winds out there for a while now. They've been blowing out there, and we really haven't seen the temperatures coming down. We're probably going to see them come down 2 to 3 degrees, but I don't think we're going to see them suddenly just pew and peter out altogether. And that's what my main concern is. So we'll have to watch. We'll see. We'll see what happens. There's been a lot of volcanic activity and earthquakes, lots of magma flowing under the Earth's crust. Maybe that has something to do with it. 2024 hurricane season is not looking good due to ocean heat constant and warm sea surface temp, which might have Force 13 going live a lot during next year. Yeah. They don't understand how dangerous it is with the sea temps being so high because they haven't watched The Day After Tomorrow. Honestly, you might be onto something there. Better to be well-informed and aware of potential worst-case scenarios than not prepared. Exactly. Good night from Jamaica. Thursday, we get a lot of rain in St. Elizabeth, Naz. How are you guys doing out there, Nautica? Are you guys doing okay? You see a lot of flooding? Bonkers for sure. East coast of Florida and the Carolinas should pay close attention. I agree. I'm surprised that the Bahamas had 0 to none tropical cyclones. Oh, that's because that's where we got to go into like the steering current and the influence of it. We definitely had a very different style jet stream to where we started seeing very, very aggressive frontal systems and troughs coming off the East Coast. Now, I wouldn't say necessarily sooner than what they did, but a little bit more aggressively because of the situation that we had going on between the polar front trying to come down and a lot of movement with our subtropical jet. And then on top of that, what also was a saving grace that a lot of folks don't realize is the reason we had so many fish storms is because you'd have one strong system move through. That would distort the pattern. They would go post-tropical and they would acquire fronts. So those fronts would start bringing the high pressure off. It would create havoc with our jet stream. I remember I got lit up in one of my videos because I mentioned that this storm was going to cause chaos, and of course everyone immediately thought, it's not hitting anyone, what are you lying for? And it's like, I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about what's going to do to the pattern, and that's exactly what it did. So that was also another saving grace of ours, is every single time we had a system go up to the north, it would just keep that channel of low pressure open. We'd have more frontal systems continue to come out. Those lows would go post-tropical, acquire jet support in the upper levels, and as such, they would just create areas of of just additional troughing to carve out paths for these systems to come out and just kind of escape. A very, very wonderful example that I love to look at is actually Franklin. Franklin was a great example of it because I've never personally seen, in the little bit of time I've really observed tropical cyclones, I've never seen a storm make its way into the Caribbean. Every time I've seen that in the past, it's game on. Like somebody's getting hit. But I've never seen it just go whoop. That was a perfect example of how our steering pattern just kind of kept us safe. Because, again, we had good troughing to the north that helped to push our Atlantic high closer to the Azores, open up that path of least resistance, and then it just kind of took off. Those strong troughs might not be there next year. I don't think they will. If we go neutral, it's going to set everything back to normal. And so August and September are going to be very interesting. And if we get those hot temperatures and we continue to slowly transition into a La Nina, we could definitely see more activity than we did this year in October and November. Because I know a lot of folks were thinking we were going to get 2 to 4 storms in October and 2 to 3 storms in November, and we only had, what was it? Did we have 2 storms in October? Or 3? No, it was 3. We had Philippe, I think. We had Rena for a brief moment, and then we had Tammy at the end of October. Am I right in that, guys? Please correct me if I'm wrong. But I think it was 3 systems in October, and we're not going to get anything in November. So we definitely kind of calmed down almost instantaneously, it seemed like, or abruptly, I should say, is a better term for it. Good night to you, my friend. Aston, welcome in. Anything for Tampa? Not right now, no. Tampa's looking pretty good. We're finally going to clear out of here, get some dry air in, and get rid of that little low vortice that's been hanging out over Melbourne for a while. Idalia was a good drill or test. I know it was not for people directly affected. It was a good test to me because there hasn't been any major storm threat since Irma. No, yeah, honestly, like a lot of us really, we were sitting pretty. And I think that's also what had a lot of the keyboard warriors ready to jump into our comments, not just my channel, but for every channel out there, is because we really didn't have a whole lot of things to fire everybody up. You know, like we had some storms, and for us weather enthusiasts, we like to scrutinize and analyze them. So to us, it's exciting and it's worth freaking out about. But to your average person who comes on just to watch, you know, the casual weather viewer who just wants 30 seconds of a brief, like Mr. Castle, if you're still there, we used to always talk about our Metcon briefs to where all the folks who were listening to Shift Change would just kind of sit off like this until they heard something about their direct area. Then they piped up for like 5 seconds, and then they would go back to just thinking about lunch or when they're going to take a PT break or something like that. Same concept. Like if they're tuning in to watch your video and they don't hear anything within the first 30 seconds that really concerns them, then it's either you're full of hype, you're full of poop or whatever, or they're just going to turn off. Same principle. Same principle. Brooke, yeah. As a matter of fact, yes, to answer your question, we are looking at some pretty solid weather this weekend. As you can see here, this is going into tomorrow morning. We have a little bit of lingering moisture out there, but then here we go. We're going through the day on Sunday. Sunday's going to look beautiful into Monday, and then our rain chances start to come back as we go into the middle parts of next week, and then that front's going to come through, hopefully, and cool us down for Thanksgiving. So we're going to have a little bit of time where our rain chances are going to go back up with our next frontal system coming through. You can see it on the temp anomaly. Very good temperature discontinuity, good cold air advection with it. And then, unfortunately, that return flow sets up really quick, and I think that's what the models are thinking is going to help fire off our next storm. Because, yeah, there's our subtropical jet. It's right over top of us again. That subtropical jet is not going anywhere. And then there's our next system possibly getting ready to take shape as that. This is a shared energy area or a shared energy region, guys. All this stuff right here. The reason the jet's accelerating the way it is because you have your polar front coming down and the subtropical jet meeting it. And I think that's when we're going to get some very, very aggressive systems coming together because they're going to fuel off of each source. You're going to get your temperature gradient from the polar front jet, and then the subtropical jet's going to help to intensify that circulation. Because, you know, when I say that we can't get fronts off of the STJ, that doesn't mean we can't get low pressures and other vortices and other significant weather off of it. It is a jet after all, and the jets do things to our upper level environment. I mean, the jet is kind of critical for some tropical development, too. You don't want to run right overhead of it, but if you have the jet drawing upper-level diffluence and all that, that's going to be great for tropical systems. So we'll see how everything shakes out. We'll definitely see. I will admit, guys, you know, now that we're getting ready to close out the stream, we got about 10 more minutes. Then Milda Drea, we're definitely going to be watching out for you for sure. Supposed to be in the Caribbean in October next year. Yeah, so we'll definitely be keeping a close eye out on you. What part of the Caribbean, if you don't mind me asking? Long track MDRs are always major impacts when they come into Florida, Bahamas. They're so well structured, stacked in the atmosphere, and they tend to slow down on approach. Yes, sir, Jacob. You hit the nail on the head. I saw the maps for the forecast of temps next week. Is it really going to potentially be below freezing the mid-Atlantic? Oh, yeah. No, you're definitely not misseeing. That could fluctuate depending on what our upper air pattern does. But if I'm not mistaken, we'll go back to that thermodynamic chart. I love using the temperature anomaly. I wish we had more anomaly charts for temps, or one of the beautiful products we had at the weather squadron I was at were our advection charts. Those were gorgeous. I miss being able to use those. But look at that nice punch of cold air. Very, very dense. This is at 850 millibars, so this is probably your mid to upper level front, but look at how dense of a cold push that is. And then if you go down to the surface, you can see, bam, right there, look at that. 28, 25 degrees, 23 over the higher terrain, near freezing along the coast, going down to freezing overnight, and then you can kind of see all that return flow getting ready to take shape after that system goes through. But there's the leading edge of it right there, and yep, very close to freezing temps, especially when you go to bed and when you wake up in the morning. Usually Aruba, but St. Martin is also a family fair. Ooh, then yeah, we definitely have to keep in touch for that time of the year. We might not see anything coming from the the east, but still worth keeping an eye on, especially if we get more active next year and we have areas to where those storms can just flow right through. But yeah, guys, that's all she wrote. That right there is, I guess, that's our northern branch feature right there coming down where all those well below freezing temps are going to be. But yeah, I have these pulled up just for shoots and giggles. And if you look, these are our Euro ensembles. What I said in my video earlier was wholeheartedly true. There's nothing on the horizon. Nothing on the horizon. The tropics are officially closed. Once we get PTC off the chart, like I said earlier in my segment today, that's probably going to be one of the last times I bring the National Hurricane Center homepage up. You come over to the GFS ensembles, the same story. You see the little bits of PTC right there, the couple little ensemble members that try to drift up towards Florida, ironically, as a very disorganized low pressure. And then after that, that's game over. Nothing out there. Okay, what in the heck is that, GFS? Now you're making me look like a liar. Look at these random things out there in the... And never mind. Here we go, guys. There we got 2 ensemble members. It's time to hype up. We got a tropical system in the main development region. That's going to be PTC 23 right there. I hope you guys realize I'm kidding. But yeah, there you have it. So that's it. That's going to be the end of the road. Hurricane season 2023 is going to be officially shut down, closed for business for the rest of the year. You can see the same thing on our probabilities. Not a single thing on our probability charts going forward. Nothing. Nothing at all. Pay no attention to this. This is low pressure out there that's forming off of a frontal boundary. I've been looking at that. I thought it was very interesting, but nothing really tropical or anything prominent like that. So, So actually, I just noticed that the Euro probabilities keep a little bit of depression probabilities down there on the 21st. This is well after that system gets flying up out of there. Look at that. A little bit of a moment. Just a small little moment. Very interesting. And those probabilities do linger for a little bit. How much you want to bet people are going to start fixating on that? We got to watch now, guys, because it looks like it gets stuck down there and reform, I think that there is a point in time, though, if it were to try to linger down there where the upper level dynamics actually do kind of get a little bit more favor. Yeah. If it does camp out down there, I'll tell you the truth. If it does decide, look at where we are right now. This is why that thing is not getting going. Look at this really, really just gross, disgusting trough right there. That's why it's not getting going. That's why it's getting sucked out. But if it does manage to linger down there, you never know. I'll leave you guys with the cliffhanger. I'll leave you guys with that little cliffhanger. Let's go see if the Euro is thinking the same thing. Yeah, it's thinking the same thing. That's an even bigger moment. Because that, if it does try to linger down in that area, let me zoom in a little bit. Where are we at? Where's the Caribbean? There we go. If it does decide to linger just an extra day or so down there, because this is now Monday. This is Monday the 20th. So the current PTC is way up there by Bermuda, approaching Bermuda, passing Bermuda. And then look at those little probabilities. That's a 50% chance right there, actually. And now I'm not actually going as far as to speculate if we could see it reform, but just curious. It's very interesting to see, because if there were to be a late November system down there, that would actually be the point that I would want to do it. Because let's see, where do we have the highest probabilities? I'm going to pull them side by side. So the highest probabilities are going through the next 24 to 72 hours. So starting tomorrow and into Monday. So let's see. So starting tomorrow, yeah, so looks like the jet reorients in a more, I guess we can say smaller scale zonal pattern, and it cuts across the southern tier states and it moves north. So if anything were to try to hold on to itself, and I say that very, very loosely, I guess this is the way to keep tropics in our tropics talk while it's still the tropics talk. If something were to hold together, if there were to be a little bit of a small leftover spin down there, you could kind of stand on at least a small enough pedestal to argue a case that we could see redevelopment. Very interesting. What does the moisture look like down there at this point? There's a lot of dry air, so I don't know. Maybe that's why the models aren't thinking anything else is going to come of it. A lot of dry air down there. But the shear does go away. The shear definitely goes away. You can see that plain as day from Sunday, or actually I should say, yeah, right about there. So from Saturday night into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we're out into even Euro La La Land. When it starts switching its resolution like that, that's when you know it's kind of just getting dorked up, and then the shear comes back. So, I mean, just for the sake of talking, tropics, you already know what I'm going to say. There's like a small little window of what if. Would you ever potentially consider delving into podcast or documentary content during the... Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, there were a few folks who recommended that I do some commentary on old systems and old seasons and whatnot. I definitely wouldn't mind doing that, especially if you guys want to see it. We can schedule that into our post-tropics topic segments. Sounds exciting. I'll be in here catching all the updates. Absolutely. I look forward to having you with us, for sure. Dorian is worth studying. I absolutely agree, especially the pattern associated with that. I'm at this point loyal to your channel, Nazario. Nomad Cat 4, I sincerely appreciate that. Thank you very much. Trying to build the community as much as possible, especially before more vigorous weather seasons. Because, we got to get through this El Nino winter, and then we have tornadoes in the spring, and then we have tropical season on top of us once again. It cools about 5 to 10 degrees, no tropical cyclones during winter because of trade winds and jet stream actually preventing storm formation. El Nino makes it even less possible. Oh, well, yeah, of course. There's definitely not going to be any tropical systems, into the winter time. That's not what I'm expecting. I'm just very curious to see if we're going to see that level of cooling. That's going to be the kicker. Hopefully we do. I'm hoping it does, because then we can kind of level everything out and, reset. Matthew F-150, good night, David, and good night, guys. Hope you guys have an amazing weekend. This is Matthew signing out. God bless. God bless you as well, sir. Thank you for joining us in. Caribbean could be the target of a Cat 5 hurricane. Hopefully not. Let's not conjure that bad juju. Pete, have a great evening, sir. We'll talk to you very soon. Enjoy dinner. Have fun cooking. Thanks, PM. Sorry, I don't mean to sound dumb. No, you're totally fine. Will the Caribbean waters cool down during winter, or will they stay that warm? Oh, I didn't even see your question, Thomas. I'm sorry. Now it makes sense why PM was saying. But yeah, no, they typically cool with the seasons as well. The pattern changes and whatnot, kind of like what he was saying. And there's going to be just, I wouldn't say diurnal, that's daily, but you'll have the seasonal cooling and then the, resurgence of hotter temperatures. Jacob, have a great evening. We'll talk to you soon and have a wonderful weekend. Guys, we're going to go ahead and start closing out the stream. Linda, good night. Thank you all for tuning in. We will still give our Weather Center segment tomorrow. Tomorrow is Saturday. I do have family coming to visit tomorrow, so it might be a very, very abbreviated segment. I'm going to try to keep it to about 10 minutes, especially since there really isn't too much to talk about. We already know that PTC is going away and Florida's going to be clearing up, so it might just be a general overview, very Metcon style-ish, so we'll see. Event, I do know they wanted to just be able to issue stuff and get people aware of what was possibly coming, and that's the main reason they had to designate it, because without a designation, and they couldn't go full-fledged tropical cyclone because there just wasn't enough agreement for it, that's the reason why they had to designate it as a PTC, just to get some WWAs out. Brooke, good night. Mr. Castle, thank you very much for joining our collaboration this evening. It means a lot every time I see your name pop up. Have a wonderful weekend as well, sir, and I hope we can chat soon. Genuinely. Milda Drea, good night. Thank you so much for joining. It was a pleasure seeing you in here for sure. Known to be sorry. Now you know how weather works around our part of the world. It's football night. See you Sunday, Monday, or whenever. Monday is when we're going to be back in here talking again, and we probably won't even really have much of a tropics talk. It'll more so just be like kind of a preliminary post-tropics topic kind of discussion, or what's going on in your neighborhood or something like that. But yeah, guys, Janice, have a wonderful evening. Hopefully we can talk very soon. Yeah, guys, so we're going to go ahead and get ready to sign off. Tomorrow we'll be doing an abbreviated segment because I have family coming over. And then Sunday, because everything's calming down, we'll probably take Sunday off. We won't really have a segment, no need to do a segment, so we'll see you again Monday after tomorrow. Kingston, Jamaica is under flash flood warning as of 2 hours ago. Yep, that makes sense. You guys have some really intense stuff going on right overhead, and that thunderstorm looks like it's kind of training over you too, so that's where we're going to see a lot of really bad flooding right there. Yep, just training over top of you. It's back building right over top of Kingston, so be safe out there. If anybody from Jamaica is watching this, please leave me a comment. Leave me a a heads up, a notification of how you're doing in your area. Please be safe. Don't take any unnecessary risks. And just maintain your situational awareness. Keep your wits about you, especially in situations like that where the thunderstorms are kind of just raining down on you and what seems to be never ending. You will get through it. We're here to watch for you. And forgive me if my rant in the very beginning seemed like I was being very, callous to your situation. I understand not everywhere is the same and not everywhere can handle significant weather like other places can. I do take that into consideration. I also just don't want to let you down in providing you with the good news that you deserve amidst all the rough news, because I know you've been taking a beating from all this thunderstorm activity. I think it's because I type so slow, but thank you and good night. No problem, Thomas. Have a great evening. We'll see you again soon. Next live stream is Monday. See you then. It's weekend time. No weather content for me tomorrow. Sunday, I'll be analyzing next storm system and potential snowstorm for the Great Lakes. That snowstorm is going to be big. That's for sure. Hopefully, if the one South Dominican Republic forms, I hope it doesn't move to the east. No, Zarko, no. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to form. Nothing's happening, and definitely nothing is going east. That is 100% certain. You are all good. All good. Don't let anyone try to convince you otherwise. This is not going to make it. You might get a little bit of increased rain coverage from it as that stuff gets spread out, but that's all you're going to see is increased rainfall. That's it. Nothing crazy. We're closing out the tropical season, so you do not have to stress. I can promise you that. All right? It's just going to be very interesting to see if we do get something to linger down there. I'm kind of more so just curious more than anything. That's it. I'm not thinking of analyzing it or forecasting it. I just want to see what happens at this point, just for the heck of it. But I also watching the next storm for California. Yeah, that's going to be, they have some pretty potent cold core systems getting ready to move in. So lots of stuff to analyze over the United States, but we're definitely not going to forget about you guys down in the Caribbean. I got you guys' back. You have a lot of subscribers from down in that general area, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Cayman Islands, locations in Central America. Central America is cruising right now, too. It looks like you guys have some pretty good weather down there. So goes without saying, we're just seeing changes. We're going with the seasons. We got to ebb and flow with Mother Nature. Or as they say in boxing, we got to roll with the punches. All right, folks, we'll see you again very soon. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your Friday night to join me for our Friday Night Tropics Talk. Please be safe down there in Jamaica, especially out in the Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba, and even spanning into the Bahamas as all that stuff surges to the north, and we can just continue to see widespread thunderstorm activity until whatever you want to call this event kind of wraps up. So just know that I'm with you. I'm here in your corner. God bless you. And I'm going to try to continue to provide you with the best information that I can. Tell you when there's good news and tell you when there's bad news, because that's the name of the game here at the Weather Center. So we'll see you tomorrow for our 6 p.m. Weather Center segment. And then we'll see you on Monday for our next full-fledged segment in our Tropics Talk. One of our last Tropics Talk of the season, as a matter of fact, as we get ready to close out November. Until next time, guys, this is Weather Center Nazario, signing out.